Listen, have you ever been in a situation where someone's yelling at you, getting in your face, trying to intimidate you, and inside you're thinking, I wish I knew exactly what to say to shut this down and make them regret ever opening their mouth? Today, I'm giving you the verbal jiu-jitsu moves that top negotiators, FBI hostage negotiators, and high-level salespeople use to flip the script on aggressive people. So teach who end up apologizing to why. Stick with me for the next few minutes, because these 5 simple tips are about to change how you handle bullies, angry customers, toxic family members, and road rage psychos forever. Okay, let's dive into the very first trick, the one that I personally use almost every single day when someone's coming at me with aggression. I call it the pause and mirror, and if you only take one thing from this entire talk, let this be it. It's simple, it's powerful, and it works like a charm. Picture this: someone's in your face, voice raised, words flying fast. Your natural instinct is to either fire back or shrink down. But here's what actually happens when you do the opposite. You do nothing. You just pause. Not a nervous little half-second pause. I'm talking a deliberate, calm 2 to 3 second silence. You look them in the eye, you take a slow breath, and you let the room fill with that quiet. That silence is your first weapon. It's uncomfortable for them. They're expecting a fight or retreat, and you give them neither. That alone starts to crack their momentum. Then after the pause, you mirror their last 3 to 5 words back to them in a curious, almost gentle tone. Not sarcastic, not mocking, just genuinely curious. So they say, you're being so disrespectful right now. Or they scream, this is unacceptable. You, unacceptable. Watch what happens. Most people, when they hear their own words echoed back without any fuel added, suddenly hear how they sound. They hear the volume, they hear the aggression, and in that split second, their brain goes, wait, do I actually sound like that? 9 times out of 10, they either soften immediately or start backpedaling. Well, I didn't mean it like that, or I'm just frustrated. Okay, boom, momentum flipped. You didn't argue, you didn't insult, you just held up a mirror. I remember using this once with a guy who was screaming at me in a parking lot because I accidentally took his spot. He's red-faced, veins popping, telling me I'm an idiot, I'm selfish, the whole script. I just stood there, took that pause, looked him dead in the eye and said, I'm an idiot. He blinked, the yelling stopped, his shoulders dropped, and he goes, no man, I've had a really bad day. Then he apologized. In under 10 seconds, I didn't say one word of defense. I didn't raise my voice. I just paused and mirrored. That's the magic. Here's why this works so well psychologically. When someone's in an aggressive state, their prefrontal cortex, the part that handles logic and self-awareness, is offline. They're running on pure emotion. The pause gives their brain a second to catch up. And when you mirror their exact words back, you're forcing them to reprocess what they just said through a calmer lens. It's like hitting replay on their own tantrum. They can't help but judge it. And most of the time, they don't like what they hear. Now, a couple of quick tips to make it even stronger. First, keep your tone neutral to curious, not smug. If you sound like you're making fun of them, it backfires and they double down. Second, use their exact words. Don't paraphrase. Say, so disrespectful right now? Not being disrespectful. The closer the mirror, the more powerful it hits. And third, don't rush to fill the silence after you mirror. Let them sit with it. The longer they have to stew in their own words, the more likely they are to apologize or at least dial it back. I've seen this work on angry customers, road rage drivers, even my own family. When someone's having a meltdown, it's not about winning an argument. It's about giving them the space to see themselves clearly. And when they do, most of them don't like what they see, so they change. So next time someone's coming at you hot, don't swing back. Just pause and mirror. That one move alone will make more aggressive people sorry than anything else you'll ever say. And that's just the beginning. All right, let's move to the second trick. Probably my favorite because it's so subtle, yet it flips the entire dynamic in seconds. I call it the I'm curious reframe. When someone's coming at you with aggression, instead of defending yourself or firing back, you do this one simple thing. You steal their moral high ground without ever raising your voice. Here's how it works. They're yelling, accusing, making demands, whatever it is. You stay calm, look them in the eye and say, I'm really curious, why do you feel the need to speak to me like that? Or, I'm genuinely curious, what makes you think it's okay to talk to me this way? That's it. No sarcasm, no attitude, just pure calm curiosity. You're not attacking them. You're inviting them to explain their own behavior. Now watch what happens. Aggressive people are used to one of 2 reactions. You either fight back or you cower. But curiosity, that's not on their radar. They suddenly have to justify why they're being aggressive. And most of the time they can't. Their brain scrambles for a reason, and when it comes up empty, the aggression collapses. They back off, they mumble, or best case, they apologize. I used this once with a manager who was ripping into me in front of the whole team. He's going off about a deadline I supposedly missed, calling me lazy, unprofessional, the works. I waited for a breath, then said, I'm really curious, why do you feel the need to speak to me like that in front of everyone? The room went dead quiet. His face changed instantly, went from red to pale. He stammered, well, I'm under a lot of pressure. Then he said, look, I shouldn't have said it like that, sorry. In front of the whole team, one sentence, no argument, no defense, just curiosity. Here's why this move is so deadly effective. When someone attacks you, they're trying to claim the moral high ground. They're saying, I'm right to be angry, you're wrong. Therefore, I get to treat you this way by asking, why do you feel the need to speak to me like that? You're not challenging their right to be upset. You're challenging their right to be rude. You're forcing them to defend their behavior, not their feelings. And that's a much harder position to hold. Most people don't have a good answer. They know deep down that yelling, insulting, or belittling isn't justified. So when you shine a calm light on it, they either have to admit they're out of line or double down and look even worse. 9 times out of 10, they choose the first option, a couple of quick tweaks to make it unstoppable. First, use "I'm really curious" or "I'm genuinely curious." Those phrases signal openness, not judgment. Second, keep your tone soft and steady. If you sound condescending, they'll dig in harder. Third, don't follow with a lecture. Just ask the question and let it hang. The silence after your question is where the magic happens. I've watched this work on angry strangers, entitled customers, even a bouncer who was getting way too aggressive at a door. Every single time, the person who is dominating the interaction suddenly finds themselves on the defensive, and usually they don't like it. They soften, they apologize, they realize they crossed a line. So next time someone's coming at you like you owe them their anger, don't defend, don't explain. Just get curious. One sentence, one question, and watch how fast they become the one who's sorry. That's the power of stealing the high ground without ever fighting for it. All right, let's talk about the third trick. One that feels almost counterintuitive at first, but once you use it, you'll never want to go back to arguing. I call it that must be hard empathy judo. When someone's raging at you, instead of pushing back or trying to prove them wrong, you step right into their emotion and acknowledge it. Not their behavior, their feeling. You say something like, "Man, it must be really hard to feel this angry right now." Or, "Wow, that sounds incredibly frustrating for you. I can see this is really upsetting. It must be tough to feel this way." You're not agreeing with what they're saying. You're not excusing the yelling or the insults. You're simply naming the emotion they're experiencing. And that small act of empathy hits them like a curveball they never saw coming. Here's what happens next. Aggressive people are used to being met with resistance. They're braced for a fight. But when you meet their anger with understanding instead of opposition, their nervous system doesn't know what to do. They were ready for war, not for someone to say, "Yeah, I get that you're hurting." Their defenses drop because there's nothing left to fight against. The energy they were throwing at you suddenly has nowhere to land. I remember a time a customer was absolutely losing it on me over the phone, screaming about a delivery that was 2 days late, calling me incompetent, threatening to sue, the whole deal. Normally, I would have jumped into problem-solving mode or tried to calm them down with logic. Instead, I took a breath and said, "Man, it must be really frustrating to have your order delayed like this when you were counting on it." Silence. Total silence on the other end. Then I heard him exhale, almost like he'd been holding his breath for minutes. He said, "Yeah, it is frustrating. I've got a big event tomorrow, and I needed it today." His voice was completely different, lower, softer. We ended up fixing the problem together, and before we hung up, he said, "Hey, sorry I came at you like that. I was just stressed." He apologized. I didn't have to ask for it. It came naturally because I gave him the one thing he didn't expect: empathy. This works because anger is almost always a secondary emotion. Underneath it is usually fear, hurt, disappointment, or shame. When you name the primary emotion, frustration, pain, overwhelm, you're speaking to the real thing. You're not fighting the symptom, you're addressing the root. And people feel seen. When people feel seen, they stop needing to scream to be heard. A quick note on delivery: keep it genuine. If you sound like you're reading from a script or being patronizing, it won't land. Say it like you actually mean it, like you're talking to a friend who's having a rough day, and don't overdo it. 1 or 2 sentences is plenty. Then stop, let them respond. Most of the time, they'll either soften right away or start explaining what's really going on. And that's where the real conversation begins. I've used this with coworkers, family members, even strangers who are losing it in public. Every time, the shift is almost instant. They go from attacking to opening up, from aggressive to human. And once they're human again, they almost always feel bad about how they acted. So when someone's coming at you with full force, don't push back. Step in with empathy. Name what they're feeling. Let them know you see it. That one move will turn most storms into something you can actually work with. And that's how you disarm anger without ever throwing a punch. All right, let's get in the fourth trick. This one's a game changer because it does 2 powerful things at once. It sets a crystal clear boundary so they know you're not going to accept the aggression, and it forces them to take responsibility for fixing the mess they just made. I call it the "I'm not okay with that" boundary let's question combo. Here's exactly how you deliver it. When someone's yelling, insulting, or trying to steamroll you, you stay calm, look them straight in the eye, and say, "Hey, I'm not okay with being spoken to like that. What would you like me to do differently next time so we can actually solve this?" Or a slight variation: "Look, I'm really not okay with the way you're talking to me right now. How would you like us to handle this moving forward so it works for both of us?" That's it, 2 parts. First, the firm boundary: "I'm not okay with that." Second, the question that hands the ball back to them: "What would you like me to do differently?" Or "How would you like us to handle this?" Now watch the magic. Most aggressive people expect one of 2 things. You'll either cave and let them keep going, or you'll snap back and escalate the fight. But this response does neither. You're not cowering, you're not attacking. You're simply stating your line in the sand and then inviting them to be part of the solution. That shift is huge. Suddenly, they're the one who has to think about behavior, consequences, and collaboration. They're no longer just venting, they're being asked to contribute. I saw this play out perfectly once with a family member who was unloading on me during a holiday dinner. Voices rising, old grievances coming up, the table getting tense. I waited for a pause, then said calmly, "Hey, I'm not okay with being spoken to like that in front of everyone. What would you like me to do differently next time so we can actually talk this through without it turning into this?" The room froze. Their face went from angry to surprised, then thoughtful. They took a breath and said, I guess I just wanted you to hear how much it hurt when you canceled last time. And just like that, the yelling stopped. We actually started having a real conversation. They even said later, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to blow up like that." One sentence from me and the entire energy flipped. Here's why this combo is so effective. The first part, "I'm not okay with being spoken to like that," is a boundary. It's not an attack. It's a fact about your own limits. You're teaching them what you will and won't accept, and you're doing it without shame or blame. The second part, the question, turns it into a partnership instead of a power struggle. By asking what they want you to do differently, you're saying, "I'm willing to adjust if you're willing to meet me halfway." Most people can't stay aggressive when they're being invited to solve the problem together. It feels unfair to keep attacking someone who's already offering to work on it. A couple of quick tips to nail it. First, keep your voice steady and low, never loud. The calmer you are, the more powerful the boundary feels. Second, use statements, "I'm not okay with," not "you're being rude." It keeps it about your experience, not their character. Third, make the question open-ended and future-focused next time, moving forward. "Would you like us to handle this?" That pulls them out of the heat of the moment and into problem-solving mode. I've used this with angry clients, pushy salespeople, even a stranger who was getting way too aggressive in a parking lot. Every time, the person either immediately tones it down or starts explaining how they want things to go better. And here's the best part: when they do apologize, they mean it, because they had to look at their own role in the interaction. So next time someone crosses the line and starts coming at you hard, don't just absorb it, don't just fight back. Draw the line clearly, then hand them the pen to redraw the map together. That one combo will make them not just sorry, but actually invested in treating you better. And that's how you turn a confrontation into a moment of real respect. All right, here we are at the fifth and final trick, the one that feels like the perfect mic drop when the other person finally starts to back down. I call it the "thank you for telling me" kill switch. This is the ultimate power move, the way you close the loop so gracefully that they're left feeling respected and usually very sorry they ever came at you. Here's how it works. They've been aggressive, yelling, accusing, maybe even insulting. You've used one or more of the earlier tricks, you paused and mirrored, you got curious, you showed empathy, you set a boundary, and now, finally, they soften. Maybe they apologize, maybe they mumble something like, "I didn't mean it like that," or "I'm just stressed," or they just stop talking and look embarrassed. That's your moment. Instead of saying "it's okay," or "no problem," or brushing it off, you look them in the eye and say, "Thank you for telling me how you really feel. I appreciate that." Or a slight variation, "Thanks for being honest with me about how you feel. That means a lot." Or "Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad you told me." Simple, warm, sincere, and completely disarming. Now, here's what this does. When someone's aggressive, they're usually trying to dominate the interaction, to feel powerful, to be in control. But by the time they back down, they're already feeling a little vulnerable. They know they overstepped. They're waiting for you to rub it in, to say, "I told you so," or to make them feel small. Instead, you do the opposite. You thank them for their vulnerability. You acknowledge that they had the courage to express what was really going on underneath the anger. You give them dignity right when they're feeling like they lost it. And that one sentence flips the script completely. They don't feel attacked. They feel respected. They feel like they're still a good person who just had a bad moment. And because you gave them that respect, they almost always give it right back. I've seen this turn a full-blown argument into a handshake, a hug, or at the very least a genuine apology. I remember a guy who cut me off in traffic, then got out of his car and started screaming at me through my window, cursing, threatening, the whole thing. I stayed calm, used the pause and mirror, then the curiosity question. He eventually deflated, said, "Look, I'm sorry, I just had a fight with my wife. I'm not myself." I looked at him and said, "Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate you being real with me." His whole face changed. He nodded, said, "Yeah, thanks for not escalating it," and got back in his car. No more yelling, no more threats, just a quiet drive away. This works because it's the verbal equivalent of taking the knife out of their hand and handing it back to them handle. First, you're not keeping the power. You're giving it back on your terms. You're saying, "I'm not here to destroy you. I'm here to connect with you." And most people, when they're treated that way, don't want to keep being the bad guy. They want to be better. A couple of quick tips to make it land perfectly. First, mean it. If you say it with sarcasm or bitterness, it'll backfire. Say it like you genuinely value their honesty. Second, keep it short. Don't add a lecture or a "but you shouldn't have," just the "thank you" and nothing else. Let it sit. And third, use it only after they've shown some sign of softening. If they're still raging, it won't land yet. Wait for the crack in their armor. I've used this with clients, coworkers, even my own kids when they've lost it. Every time, it ends the conflict on a high note. They walk away feeling like they were heard, valued, and forgiven, not humiliated. And that's when the real apologies come out, not forced ones, real ones. So the next time someone's aggression starts to fade and they give you that opening, don't brush past it. Don't settle for "it's fine." Hit them with gratitude instead. Thank them for showing you their real feelings. Watch how fast they become the one who's sorry and how deeply they mean it. And that's how you leave them not just quiet, but changed. So here's the truth. You now have 5 verbal moves that don't require you to be louder, meaner, or tougher than the person coming at you. You don't have to out-aggress the aggressor. You just have to be smarter, calmer, and more in control of yourself than they are of themselves. Pause and mirror, get curious, show empathy, set the boundary, and hand them the solution. Then finish with gratitude when they finally drop the armor. 5 moves. That's all you need. Next time someone raises their voice, slams a hand on the table, or tries to make you feel small, I want you to remember this: their aggression is not about you. It's about the storm inside them. And these 5 tricks, they're your way of becoming the calm in the middle of that storm. You walk away untouched. They walk away changed. And most of the time, they walk away sorry. So go use these. Try one tomorrow. Try all 5 this week. And watch how fast people who once tried to tear you down start treating you with respect they never thought they'd give. You got the tools now. Go make aggressive people sorry they ever picked the wrong person to mess with. Thank you.